Hiya, so in the last video we had the tank out, so while we've got the tank out and full of water, I thought it would be a good idea just to go through some of the baits in our own bait range and show you guys exactly the thinking behind them, because not only are they different around boilies, but there's a little bit in them to help you with the mechanics of your rigs, and that's some of the things that we promote with these baits. Not only are they there for the attraction side, and obviously the sight side, because if you imagine the first sense, I don't care what anyone says, the first sense a carp is going to use is its eyesight. So obviously if it's nervous about round balls, well, there you go. Is it nervous about segmented bait shapes? I don't think so. So anyway, so what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at we're going to start with some bottom baits, or still maybe slightly lightened bottom baits. And the first one is the barrel grub. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get that on a hair, show you guys exactly my thoughts behind it, how it can be used, and the reasons why it can be used. So I'll get one on a hair and just have a look at it. Cheers. Okay, so the barrel grub, here it is. Basically a bottom bait in 4 segments, and it has a strip of pop-up running through it. So I have another example in black, 4 segments, nice yellow stripe. Now the thing is, if I drop these in the tank, what will happen is it'll flutter down, but the yellow will always sit up over. So let's just see if we can watch that now. Okay, I've got 4 together. Okay, so what does the pop-up stripe do? Well, first of all, obviously it's a nice little sight thing, so obviously yellow pop-up can be little flecks of corn on the bottom for the carp to see, but also for me it helps with my mechanics. So I prefer to use this sort of rig here. So I'll have a little kicker, and it's basically a blowback rig. However, what I do is I make sure that the buoyant side of the bait is on the opposite side from the hook. So I tend to line it up like that, make sure it's hanging naturally, and then I slide it on. Should get away without a hair. So now, if I bring that up closer, I will show you on. So obviously that's going to go down on the bottom. The yellow technically is always going to be on the upmost side. Obviously sometimes it'll land on, as it comes down, lands on a bit of gravel, it'll roll over. Any disturbance, it's going to right itself again. So I know now that when that gets picked up, that bait is going to get sucked into the carp's mouth, the hook point's going to be down over, and bang. And I think that just helps your mechanics of your rig. But that's not the only presentation. So what I'll do now, I'll just grab the other camera and show you some of the ideas that our customers have come up with, that have shown us at shows and things like that. But they have come up with some ingenious ideas. Because obviously you can fish them as a half, if you like a small bait. Some people use them, I think they're too big, so they take one segment off, and then what do you do with all the segments? Well, one guy came up with an ingenious idea, and I'll show you now what he came up with. Okay, so here you have the bog standard barrel grub on a blowback with a kicker, or if you like it smaller, cut it in half. Or as one customer showed us, fish it with 3 segments. You will see between the bait and the hook there's just a little rubber stop to keep all 3 together. Right, let's just have a look at those 3 presentations in the tank. We'll pop the GoPro in, drop them in, let you guys have a little look, see what you think, see what the Carp sees. Okay, so our barrel grub, some people use them all the time. One thing I would recommend when you're using our baits is always use a 1mm needle, and we recommend, and we don't get them, we have to buy them, and I tend to buy 2 or 3 at a time. That's a 1mm drill and a 1mm needle. Obviously, because you can't just ram them through our baits, you need to be a little bit careful. So always start your hole off with your drill, make sure it's going nice and straight. We do have a video about how to use our baits. That's what I would recommend. Drill it maybe all the way through, make sure it's nice and controlled before you use your needle. Barrel grubs could be an edge for you. Something very similar, and obviously we'll have the same mechanics, so we're not going to go through all of that, is our striped caterpillar slug, named by one of our customers or somebody on our Facebook page. For obvious reasons, we do bend a few, or we have them straight, and these guys have 6 segments. And obviously we recommend that you are using these in the margins, under trees, bushes, for obvious reasons, that they look like a caterpillar or a slug that's fallen into the water. So let's just have a look at some dropping into the tank. Okay guys, so that is a striped caterpillar slug on a hair rig, blowback rig with a kicker. Obviously you could fish it as a half. And as with the barrel grubs, when you put these on the hair, make sure you've got the buoyancy of the pop-up on the top. So if I just pick this one up, you'll see that hook falls underneath. Naturally wants to be there. We think it's a great little edge. Okay, so just one more to talk about in the, probably would say, the bottom bait range of bespoke baits, and that would be the humble grub. So all this is basically 15-16mm boilie that has been manufactured to look like a large maggot. So it's not round, obviously it is in that way, and it has 7 segments, has a fatter end and a thinner end, and basically just looks like a big grub, exactly as it's named. Bottom bait, sometimes we do lighten them, so occasionally you might see them in 2 versions of a bottom bait, or I wouldn't say a wafter as such to hang off the hook, but it'll be light, so it's just lying flat. Hi guys, just thought I'd pop on to show everyone our pop-up range. Come in lots of different flavours, basically in two styles. This one's it's the mini Cocoon, which is just a 4 segmented shaped pop-up. Comes in lots of different colours, lots of different flavours. And then we have a larger version, which is the large Cocoon or Cocoon. So designed to look a little bit more natural than a round bait, having lots of segmentation, 6 or 4 segments depending which size you go for. Each one has a little bit of thinking behind it, as in, do you like fishing a small pop-up in a bag, or just generally a small pop-up? So your mini Cocoon can even be fished as a zig. However, we do have the larger one, which we think more aimed at fishing a Ronnie rig or a Hinge rig, or just whatever your favourite pop-up rig is. My particular favourite, because I fish a lot of weedy waters, and I like a large Cocoon popped up in the weed. So let's just have a little look at the mini Cocoon, and then also we'll pop some in the tank. Obviously come in lots of different colours, lots of different flavours. Have a look, see what you think. Okay, here we have some examples of Cocoon pop-ups. So the two at the bottom are mounted on my favourite rig, which would be the Hinge Rig. So the one on the left is just literally directly to the loop, and the one on the right is using a little bait spiral. So bait spirals I think are great for day fishing, where you're repeatedly casting. However, if your bait's going to be out there long term, I wouldn't use one. I would always tie it on. And they do come in lots of patterns and flavours, different colours. These are just a few out of our pineapple range. Okay guys, two methods I use to mount a pop-up onto a Hinge rig. The first being using a bait screw, and the second one is using a bit of bait floss. So if I'm going to use a bait screw, very important, what I do is actually start forming the hole, and I just give a little bit of guidance. I just want the last little sort of half turn of the bait screw to grip. And I would only use these on day sessions where I'm sort of repeatedly casting. My second method would be using a bit of bait floss. So what I want to do is I want to create a length of bait floss which is about double the size of the bait, because in effect what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up with 4 strands running through the bait and then melt 4 strands. So then 3/4 of the way up I'm going to fold the 2 strands over and feed them on. Leaving 4 strands up here, which can be melted. I hope that helps. Okay, so we have 2 Cocoon Pop-Ups, both mounted on Hinge rigs. And with the large type, I'd like to use a size 8 swivel. And with the smaller ones, I tend to use a size 11. So this range comes in lots of different colours. We do love to stripe a few, making them dirty or just something different. And we'll have a look at some in the tank. Right guys, the Cocoon Pop-Up. Try to hang it like that. We do love them in black. We love a black bait. We'll always find a black bait out. Probably my go-to rig when I'm fishing in weed, the large Cocoon Pop-Up, but obviously that just suits my style of fishing and obviously the waters I'm fishing. So the big question is, obviously hopefully we've covered all the shapes in our range. Obviously sometimes we do like a wafter type. Keep an eye out for them. Just depends on what mood we're in and how much time we've got to make some baits. Obviously we just do this part-time. We do work as well. Now the big question is, and what everyone says to me is, especially when they turn up at the stall at the shows and they say, what would you recommend? And my first question is, how do you fish, where do you fish, and what are you fishing over? Because each of our baits is designed for a different style or a different surface of a lake. So obviously if you're fishing in weed or heavy silt, for me you want to be fishing a pop-up. If you're fishing on hard ground, clay or light silt or even fine weed, then you can get away with fishing the bottom baits. Like I say, there's lots of styles. I know one story, a guy who was whacking 40s out from in Essex, and he had literally bought 2 tubs of pop-ups off us. He was a bit coy on giving us the pictures, but he did give us some, and he knew certain spots in that lake, and all he was doing was casting a single out. And I know him and his mate were doing really well on them, and they were keeping it really quiet from everybody else on the lake, and catching loads of big fish, 40 plus. Anyway, that concludes our little guide to Bespoke Baits. Hopefully there's something in there for your sort of fishing. Just one little thing maybe I didn't mention was on the mini cocoons. Obviously we know people are fishing them as zig rigs. Again, something completely different, popped up in the water, and also I use them for floater fishing. So lots to choose from, depending on your situation, depending on where you're fishing, how you fish, and what you're fishing over, more importantly. Anyway, I've been Martin at Bespoke Baits, tight lines. Just thought we'd throw this in case you're missing jungle music. Apparently every carp fishing video these days has to have jungle music in it. Prefer a bit of Green Day myself.